Everyone, how you doing? This is Domingo, and I'm here with another interview slash kind of conversation with a great friend of mine. I first met him actually probably through accident, in a way, because a friend of mine invited me to a mastermind. And I actually met this individual for the first time in Panama when I was doing one of those conferences. And he invited me to this mastermind, and he only invited 2 or 3 other people to it, and I was lucky enough to be one of them. And then the other person that was on the phone with me was Tim Erway, who's my guest today, and we just hit it off. One thing that I think Tim and I appreciate is we appreciate the traveling. Well, first of all, traveling internationally, but we really enjoy the international aspects of business and lifestyle. And we just started having a conversation, and it just really took off from there. And since then, he's joined me on a couple trips, Mexico. He's also, I've actually had the pleasure of actually speaking on stage with him. And then he came and spoke on stage at my conference as well in Miami. So Tim, thank you for joining me today.
Hey, it is my pleasure to be here, my friend. Thank you for having me.
Every time I speak with you, it's always a big surprise on what's going to happen. And so we're going to just, what do you call it? Freeform this, just let it go,
and just roll with it.
Roll with it and see what happens. And as long as we're still friends at the end, I think we did a great job.
Yeah, and hopefully not too many F-bombs this time.
So Tim, here's the thing. I've heard you on stage many times, and I've heard your story. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people here have heard your story. If not, you can see a little bit of the recordings from the Monetization Mastery last year. And I'll post that video on here as well so that you guys can kind of see a little bit more about Tim and his past. But, there's always another story, a story that really never comes out or something that you don't share very often. So tell us a little bit about yourself, at least prior to noticing that you're an entrepreneur, maybe the moment that you did realize that you were an entrepreneur, if you can share that with us.
That's a tough one, man. So I didn't know I was really an entrepreneur. I have to be honest, I kind of stumbled onto entrepreneurship, but I knew from a young age that I was a nonconformist and that I was I'm just going to say it, I was very lazy. And so in school, I didn't really conform to any of the instructions or anything like that. I didn't do my homework. I actually got a 0.4 grade point average in my freshman or sophomore year. I don't remember. So I really wasn't interested in anything scholarly. I didn't really care for authority. And so there was a lot of that going on. And unfortunately, that led me down or could have led me down a path of probably destruction. Fortunately, though, I kind of pulled myself up by the bootstraps and decided I had to do something about this and at least have some discipline and even if I was going to be a nonconformist, to do so in a way that was actually productive rather than destructive. And so that was kind of where my journey began. And I knew that, working for somebody else, and I went into the military, by the way, to take care of that discipline problem that I had. I realized, being owned by the military was not my path. And I really rebelled against the whole, the pendulum swung the other way. I was very, structured, very disciplined. And I thought, you know what, this isn't for me either, but at least I have self-discipline now. And I can take that and I can create my own destiny, if you will. And so I decided that entrepreneurship was really only path for me because I was unemployable, basically. And so I don't know really what age that was, but it was an evolution. It was something that kind of happened along the way. And there were some times when I thought, I have no future because I just don't fit into any mold. I don't fit into any category. I don't know anyone else who feels the way I do about school and just, learning and all that stuff. And, the way that we learn in schools today is it's ridiculous. I have 4 kids and I see what they have to do and I'm just shaking my head going, geez. And, you have to encourage them to get good grades and to do their best. But you look at this whole, what is it, Common Core and all that stuff. And it's ridiculous. It's even worse than when I was a kid. And I think it's just continuing to regress and get worse and worse as time goes on. So it's unfortunate. But for me, the shift to entrepreneurship, man, it was out of necessity, really, because there was really no other path for me to take.
The question I have, well, before we get into the educational component, it wasn't known as entrepreneurship. That was a term that kind of came out about 10 years ago or so. So what was it for you though? I mean, we call it now entrepreneurship so that people can identify, oh, he wanted to be a self-starter, a dreamer, someone who chases businesses and so on. But what would have you called it back then?
So this is before, so when I was about 12 or 13, my pitch with mowing lawns was I'm an entrepreneur in the lawn mowing business, and I'd like to mow your lawn for X number of dollars, right? So entrepreneur, or the term entrepreneur, was around, but I guess it wasn't as common as it is today.
Right.
And so I do remember using it, but I didn't really know what it meant. And so what I thought entrepreneurship meant, or what I thought was the path for me, was self-employment. And so I wanted to work for myself. And as I continued to grow my business and get some success, I realized that that's another trap. That's actually not ultimate freedom. It's not leveraged. So self-employment was my definition of entrepreneurship at that time, but it's since evolved. And I understand now that that's a very narrow way to look at entrepreneurship. I think it's much bigger. I think entrepreneurship's more about creating. It's more about growing. It's more about evolving. It's more about leverage. And it's really about bringing value to the world and into the marketplace. And that's what entrepreneurship really means for me now. So I have a more expanded view, I guess you could say, of entrepreneurship as a definition.
Yeah, I agree. It's like when I was younger, I knew that I didn't want to work with anyone else. I didn't want to work for anyone else. I knew that I can accomplish things, right? But I didn't know the word entrepreneurship, of course, and that might have been just because even my education was worse than yours. but I didn't know what I was aiming for. I really didn't. Coming from an immigrant family, we weren't called entrepreneurs as we're picking oranges and strawberries from the field. It was just work. But I knew that I didn't want to work for the man because I always believed I can always do more than they could for some reason. Mm-hmm. I had this inside itch to do more and want to do more and accomplish more. Some people they settle with that. Yeah. But I couldn't get it out of my mind that there's more out there. And then of course the journey is not easy. There's a whole entire story of the journey that we can talk about from the day that you're 12 to when you're up to when you're 45. So it's,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you, man. I think there's nothing more tragic of a life that you can live than to have dreams, to dream big, and to never pursue any of those dreams out of fear. I'm wearing a shirt right now, and it's actually pretty appropriate. I didn't plan this, I swear, but it says "Fear is a liar." And so I think that too many people, they have dreams. You look at children when they're young, and they just have, I want to be this, I want to be an astronaut, and they have all these grand visions and dreams. And I looked back at some of the stuff that I wrote down when I was a kid. My mom kept that stuff, and I look at my kids' stuff, and I think it would just be tragic and just really disappointing to, at the end of your life, look back at all the dreams that you had and really not pursue them all. And when you pass, all those dreams go in the garbage, those pieces of paper. I think there's nothing more tragic than that. So I think the purpose of life is really to experience fully, to embrace your passions. I believe it's too short of a life that we live to really shrink yourself to mediocrity and to try to conform. I really think that everyone has the capacity and ability to, if nothing else, follow one passion and really understand the purpose of life. For me, the purpose of life is very simple. It's about the relationships and experiences. And so for me, what I do, the way I grow my business, the way I create my companies, is I create them in such a way that it actually supports what my vision is for myself and for my biggest value I can contribute. And so I think it's really important, is from a lifestyle design standpoint to really understand, what is, if you imagine yourself on your deathbed and you look back over your life, what is the most important things to you in life? And I guarantee you it's not about working longer hours. I guarantee it's not about making more money. I guarantee it's about the people and the experiences. And so when you look at that and you understand that very clearly, it makes it really simple to look at, to really create the lifestyle of your dreams, or at least to to draft it out and to envision it. And everyone, I truly believe this. I believe everyone has the capacity and the ability. Almost everyone has that ability to be able to live their life on at least a more in accordance with their vision. So if you just take a little bit of time to really think about what's important to you, what you value most, and you create a vision or a plan for getting to that life, that's a huge step in the right direction. And I think that's a necessary first step as well.
But it's at the same time, I mean, let's keep this conversation real. It's difficult.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you know what? Entrepreneurship, being, following your dreams is difficult because you're really breaking away from the flock of sheep, right? That are all heading off the cliff, right? I mean, you have to understand that if you want to live a life of mediocrity, that's the easy path. It's always going to be difficult to break away from that. You're always going to meet resistance. I don't remember the exact quote from Einstein, but it's, great opposition is met from mediocre minds, something to that effect. I don't remember exactly the quote, but I couldn't agree more. You're always going, when you break away from the mold, you're going to meet resistance after resistance. You're going to meet people that unintentionally sometimes, who believe that they're looking out for your interest in what's best for you, will pull you back and hold you down. And it's unfortunate, but that's just the society that we live in. Is we look at fear with people who are going to break away. We look at them with envy, with fear. We have all these false beliefs because it shines the light on our own mediocrity. So when you try to break away from the herd and you're doing great things and having great experiences, people might smile and go, good for you. But deep inside, they're looking at their own insecurities, and they're scared and they're afraid of that. So they sometimes unintentionally, sometimes unconsciously try to hold you back from living your life. So yeah, it's difficult. You're going to meet opposition. If it was easy, everyone would do it. And so I totally get it. So to go back to your thing of let's get real, I agree, man. I think you have to be real with it and understand that this is, it's not all daisies and sunshine. It's not like what everyone makes it sound like, the whole internet lifestyle dream. It starts with a nightmare. It really does. It starts with trying to break from inertia. It starts with trying to, get things rolling, and you're going to meet that resistance, your own mindset, most importantly to start with, and your own belief in yourself. Those are the things that you have to overcome first. And then when you can do that, the other people, trying to hold you back, it doesn't matter, because your vision is bigger than what their vision is, and it's pulling you towards what you want to achieve in your life. So I think that the biggest obstacle and hurdle is actually our own self-limiting beliefs, our own mindset issues that keep us held back and keep us confined.
There's some people who are going to watch this and they're going to say, well, it's easy for you to say because look at where you're at. Look at what you've accomplished. You're Tim Erway, you're Domingo Silvas. You guys have done all this stuff. Do you still face this every day?
It's crazy. Because, I sometimes look back at, for instance, my first teleseminar I ever did was before webinars came out. And I look at my, where I was at. I was doing this not because I was successful, but because I was in a network marketing company and they had a templated teleseminar that you do. And you're supposed to follow the template and tell people all this stuff. And I'm listening to myself going, oh my God, this is not me. It sounds ridiculous. I was totally failing at that time. And I look back on that, I'm a high school dropout, for goodness sakes. I got kicked out of regular high school, went to continuation high school, couldn't even graduate half a day high school. You go for half a day. I had my family was broke. I lived in low-income housing. I had no advantage. I had no real role model, nothing. I just decided, being broke sucks. And I made a decision. I made a choice to allow myself to dream bigger and allow myself to understand that there's more possibility, and to focus on the possibility versus the limitation. And most importantly, to find people who were at where I wanted to be and really learn from them. And I think that that's the biggest propulsion. If you want to add jet fuel to your goals, get around people that and learn from people that are where you want to be. And if you do that, you're gonna start your reality, your belief is gonna start expanding. You're gonna have more confidence. You're gonna understand that these are regular people that are super successful. They're regular people just like me. The only difference is that they've allowed themselves to expand their minds and their beliefs, and they have bigger visions that pull them forward than you do. And so when you look at it, at the person, the advantage and the opportunity, and you are who you are, that's a bunch of bullshit, because each one of us, we start with the same, you know, I was around poverty, crime, drugs, death, you know, alcoholism, abuse. I've lived through all of that. I started in the same place that maybe even worse place than many people that are watching this started from. And it's not because I'm special. It's not because I'm super intelligent or smart. It's because I just dared to dream, and I dared to be bold enough to follow my dreams. And I think everyone has that same ability, no matter where you're at. I mean, you look at stories of people who are handicapped, who have no use of their legs, that follow their passions and dreams. There's stories that, you know, like any limitation that you can think of, people have overcome those limitations to achieve amazing things in their lives because they dared to dream, because they were bold enough to follow those dreams.
Yeah, you know, and I have to add too, for everyone who's kind of watching this too, where you're at, no matter where you're at, okay, it's addictive. In other words, if you're so much around fear, if you're around people who are who have the fear base, if you're around people who keep you down, who are, you know, have you drinking or smoking all the time and doing all this stuff, you know, it's addictive to stay in that field because you're so used to that feeling. Although you dream and you want to accomplish so much more, you look out there and say, I want to do this, but you're in your comfort zone and that's fear. Fear is a very comfortable thing too, because you're used to it every day. It's a bad habit.
Man, I couldn't agree more. And, you know, they say birds of a feather flock together, right?
Yeah.
And it's true. And you're right. It is fear. And again, fear is a liar. If you listen to fear and you allow that to guide your life, you will be stuck in mediocrity forever. I cannot emphasize that enough. If you're afraid of something, either it's justified fear. In other words, you know, you're standing at the precipice of a big cliff and you might fall off. That's a justifiable fear. But for the most part, fear is future events appearing real, as our mutual friend Blair would say, or false events appearing real. And if you're facing fear and it has something to do with you know, personal growth or expanding your comfort zone, and there's a difference between safety and comfort. Yeah. Always challenge yourself to be uncomfortable. And you could still be, and this is a distinction I learned from Blair, is understand the difference between comfort and safety. And it's good if you're feeling uncomfortable, and if you feel like you're challenging yourself, that means you're growing. And I've embraced that feeling of challenging myself to the point where it's uncomfortable, because I know that I'm growing and I know that I'm getting better. And I know that the end result is that I'm going to have something called wisdom. And I think that's the most valuable thing you can have, is the intellectual capital and really experience and wisdom from, you know, just pursuing, you know, your goals and dreams. And part of that requires overcoming this 4-letter word, fear. That's almost all of it that's keeping you from achieving success, is just that fear of breaking free. And the people that are around you, again, it's like you have to break from that inertia, and it's this magnetic thing that pulls you back. And so the further away you get, the less of a magnetic hold that it has on you. Mm-hmm. So my feeling is full immersion. If you can have the chance to be in a mastermind, if you have a chance to, you know, go to events like Domingo puts on, if you have a chance to do that kind of stuff, pull yourself away from the people that are holding you back, and grab onto the coattails of somebody like Domingo here, who's going somewhere, who's surrounding himself with inspiring people. Get around those people, and what'll happen is you'll start to resonate on the same mindset as they are. It's resonance. So when you hang out with those people, your comfort will adjust, your comfort level will adjust. You'll feel more comfortable around people that are successful and wealthy, and you'll feel uncomfortable around people that aren't. Yeah. And I think that a lot of people interpret that, I don't want to say the less evolved people interpret that as, well, he's a snob. And it's not that we're snobs. It's that wealthy people can't be around poverty-minded people, because it's like oil and water. And so that's when you know you're growing, is when it's hard to be around people. If it's hard for you to shop at Walmart, then you know you might be evolving as an entrepreneur. And I say that tongue in cheek, but I'm kind of serious. If you hang out with your old friends from high school and they've gone nowhere, they've they're good people, they're hardworking people, but they're just not resonating at the same level you are, and you feel like you've grown, then that's congratulations. You've pulled away from, your comfort zone. You've challenged yourself. You've stepped it up a little bit, and you've recalibrated your mindset to be more around wealthy people. And I think the more you do that, it's like playing tennis. And I don't like tennis personally, but if I wanted to get good at tennis, I'd play someone that was really, really world class, so that I could constantly challenge myself to grow faster. And it's the same thing with entrepreneurship. It's the same thing with any venture that you choose to pursue with, wholeheartedly. Get around people who've already been where you want to go, and do what they do, and you'll get what they got.
It's funny, as we're saying this, like last night I was watching TV, and I was watching a classic. I don't know if you call it a classic, but you might have heard of it. It's called Dodgeball.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And there was a scene in there, and I won't say who actually said this because I think it's actually hilarious at this moment, but there was a moment where this saying was said, and it said, well, I guess if a person never quit when the going got tough, then they wouldn't have anything to regret for the rest of their life. And so when he said it, and actually it came from Lance Armstrong in the movie.
Yeah.
When he said that, it really, really got to me, because if the going get, if it basically, if the regrets that we have in life are the ones that I wish I could have, I wish I did. And the thing is that, and that's something that's not a feeling that most people want, right? That's not a feeling that I don't have that feeling, right? I wish I would have done this. I wish I would. Mm-hmm. I don't do that. I go after what I want to do. I hang out with them. If you watch anything in my Facebook feed, you'll know that last month I was with Tim Erway and a whole bunch of amazing people having a great time in Salt Lake, Park City. It's a little bit about Tim talks about, you hang out with like-minded individuals, people who are wealthy in mindset, because you'd be surprised at what comes out from it. But the thing at the same time is, if you find yourself that you quit and and you're going to end up regretting it. You're going to end up being wanting and wanting and wanting. And believe it or not, it's so easy to get it. It's just a shift in the mindset. Mm-hmm. It's a shift that I'm going to make this happen no matter what, because you're still going to have the bills for tomorrow. You're still going to have the pressures of everyday life. That's not going to change. But you do see it differently when you realize that you're accomplishing things that you want to accomplish, and you're aiming, and you're getting what you want. And those things are not going to bother you so much, because you know that you're moving forward. But when you allow things to push you back, it just holds you back. It's that simple.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think it's kind of normal to feel like, well, I should be doing this, or I wish I think it's normal to feel that way. But if that's the constant, then there's an issue, and it's your conscience or your mind or the bigger part of you telling you need to make a change. And I still look at things and I go, I wish I could do this. And I go, well, maybe I should do that. So it's just a different way of thinking. So I still start out that way. And that's a good way to it's pulling you forward. That kind of feeling, that lack feeling, it can be healthy, because it shines the light on the void and says, well, this is what's missing for you right now. And if you can do that, and you can do it without judging yourself, and do it where you shine the light and you go, you know what, that is a void. What might I do to fix this? Or what might I do to grow? I think that's completely okay, and that's completely normal. And sometimes with you, for example, that shift up from I should or I wish happens so fast you may not even recognize it, because you're like, well, I can, right? But for some people that are mere mortals, we have to look at that I should, I wish, and go, maybe it's possible. I wonder what that would look like. I wonder how that's cool. Okay, I could see it. So you have to go through that processing portion of that processing part of it, and not let it pull you back, but use it to pull you forward. It's the same kind of, it's a negative pull, but the negative pull can get you moving. It can break you from inertia. And I think that that's really important when you start looking at like lack in your life, that you look at it and try not to judge, try to evaluate, as Blair again would say, and see what you can do to really use that negative, that little itch, or that little, you can't quite reach that itch. Like how can I use that to push me forward, to be able to expand my reality in my life, and be a better me than I am right now. And so I just really, I want people to understand that itch, that kind of like, well, life isn't good enough now, is okay if you can use it, that motivation, in a healthy way, and use it to pull you closer to where you want to be.
Do you think people fear success?
I hear, so I remember I think it was No Excuses last year where you were there and spoke. I had a conversation, I think it was last year, with a lady, and she was talking about her business and how things were going great. And she said she felt stuck because she was afraid of success. And I think that's bullshit for the most part. I think what she was really afraid of, she was afraid of failure. And I think what she really was afraid of was, I don't deserve this. And I think what she was really afraid of was, this is all chance and luck. I don't think it had anything to do with fearing success. I think it has to do with fearing failure. And I think it has, most importantly, not failure on the external, but failure on the internal. And I think a lot of people have what's called imposter syndrome, even when they start getting success. And they really feel like, well, this is not mine. I don't own this. I didn't do this myself. And I know, because I went through this myself, where I was having success. And I was like, well, this is a fluke. It's luck. I'm waiting for the other shoe to fall, or the rug to get pulled out from under me. And I think a lot of people, especially when you're just starting out, and even more experienced entrepreneurs, they feel that way, and they have that fear. And it's really important to be able to step into your greatness and understand, I did this. This is mine. I created this. Yeah, it might fail, but what it took for me to create what I have, I can do again if it does, or I can identify the point of failure before it happens, or I can, whatever the case may be, but really just take ownership of the results that you're getting, because it doesn't happen by chance unless you're playing the lottery.
So one of the questions I ask during these conversation or interview series is, what was your biggest lesson that you learned last year, and how did you apply it? How did you apply it this year to make a difference?
Along that same vein, so I knew that we were getting better results than we had in a long time last year. And I knew I had an idea of what was causing those better results in 2015, but I didn't know. And so I really had to go back and say, okay, what are the Pareto's principle, right? 80-20. What are the things that really created the most lift for us last year? What are the small hinges that swing big doors, so to speak? What are the things that I can do to take giant leaps in 2016? And some of those hinges, they require a little oil, and really understanding, like, what is it that I have to do to be able to redefine what's possible for the growth of our company, like really, really stretch ourselves and really grow as a company. Because personally, I believe personal development and personal growth and all that stuff is super, super important. And it's a different thing to be able to enroll your whole team, if you have a team of people, if you have a company, to really stretch themselves and to really embrace that unknown as well. And so understanding last year, kind of looking at what we did the year before and the year before that, it was about launching products and offers. Last year, we did something different. We created more depth, and we realized, what is the big need? We created a more customer-centric business model. And we thought, what is the big gap in the marketplace? What's the big need? What's the big problem that we need to solve? And how can we do a better job of solving that, rather than just launching offers that solve all these little tiny problems? How can we stick to the core things that we really need to help people to really achieve the kind of results that they want, whether they're brand new, just getting started, whether they're kind of in the intermediate phase and they're just learning how to outsource and build teams and stuff like that, or they're at the 6 and 7 figure level and they really want to scale and grow their business. That's what we decided to focus on. And so we spent 80% of our efforts on that little 20% of 20%, which gives you that multiple X factor growth that you're looking for in a business. And so I think that was the biggest lesson for me, is what gets you to 6 figures doesn't necessarily scale to 7. What gets you to 7 figures doesn't necessarily scale to 8. And so really understanding what hinges will swing open the door, what small hinges will swing open those big doors in business.
Wow, that's good. I agree with you. I agree. I think, when it is a different model. I mean, I do believe, a plan for a 6-figure, a plan for a 7-figure, or an 8-figure business are different as far as what to plan for, right? Because when you start thinking about the higher numbers, you start thinking about the 7-figure and 8-figure businesses and selling it for 8 figures and 9 figures and trying to go further. It's a bigger game.
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes it's outside the skill set that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Because I believe with the common knowledge and mentorship, a 6-figure, even 7 figures is possible, but the 8-figure and the 9-figure to go above it takes a lot. It's another game, another bit of experience that most people don't have. And this is where mentorship really, really is critical. I think mentorship is critical to it all because it's a learning phase. I mean, as you get comfortable with 6, you can do 6 figures all day long. When you do 7, you can do 7 figures all day long. But as it gets higher and higher, it's not that it's more difficult. It's just a different bit of its experience. And so,
exactly.
That's great. I mean, that's great that you were able to bring that out and duplicate that. As a successful entrepreneur as you are, what are some of the daily habits that you do to keep yourself sharp?
So I think it's really, for me, I believe in, lay a small brick every day or a couple small bricks every day and you create, a huge building, right? So for me, it's just about what are the small 3 to 5 things that I can do today that are going to move me closer to my ideal life, right? So I have it like I visualize it like this. Vision's the top. It's like, this is my ideal life right now. As of now, this is my ideal life. Below that, strategy. That's like if you imagine a pyramid. And so you have to say, well, what is the path to getting to my vision? What is the path to achieving my vision? That's the strategy, right? Then you break that strategy down into objectives. Well, here's the objectives that I need to hit in order to achieve my strategy so that I can live my vision. And so that's kind of how I look at goal setting. I've never seen really anyone talk about it the way that I use it, but that's what works for me. And then these objectives, maybe they're weekly objectives or monthly or quarterly objectives or whatever. These are the benchmarks along the way to achieving the strategy to realize the vision. And so every day I use an application called Todoist. I don't know if you're familiar with that. What's
the name of that again?
Todoist, Todoist.
Okay.
And so I open up Todoist and I look at, here's the bricks that I need to lay today. It's always 3 to 5. Sometimes it's 2 if it's a big thing that I have to accomplish today. For example, I might have a video or a series of videos that I need to shoot. I can't shoot 3 to 5 videos. Maybe it's only writing the script for my video. So but I never go over 5 things because I realize that if I go over 5 things, first of all, I like to hit my mark 80% of the time to feel like I've accomplished something. And so I don't want to be overzealous and set these goals where I'm constantly missing because that's demotivating. I want to set a small goal every single day where I feel like if I do these things, I've accomplished something and I've moved closer to where I want to be. So for me, they're bite-sized chunks that I take, and I never go over 5. If I'm doing well over 5 and I'm able to accomplish them, that means I'm focusing more on the less important menial things. So I try to make them chunks that are super important. Yes, there's a lot of little things that go along with that. There's answering emails. There's doing phone calls and things like that. But that's not one of the chunks, the little chunks that I need to. How do you eat an elephant 1 bite at a time? I need to take the bites of the elephant that will get me to finishing my meal and being very happy. Terrible analogy, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. I've never had an elephant before, so I don't know. But okay.
Yeah, me either. But I almost did eat a camel burger yesterday. So,
did you really?
Yeah, I decided against it last minute, but I was going to get a camel burger. But anyway, so that's one of the things is just those small things. But I think none of that's going to work for you. Like I could give you like I'm sitting at a sit-stand desk right now. That works for me. That helps me stay energized. I can sit. I could stand up. Right now I'm standing up. And that's great. I could give you talk about office and I could talk about, your workspace and making it like all that stuff does not matter if you do not have your vision clear. And a mutual friend of ours, I won't say his name, but for a long time he was struggling with his vision, struggling with clarity. And he just had a lack of clarity. And I think he shifted recently, which is amazing. And he now has clarity. So now he can create a strategy, because you have to have that vision piece first before you can work on your strategy, because otherwise you're going to have a strategy that takes you to nowhere, or takes you somewhere you don't want to go, or somewhere you think you want to go. And that's a problem. So I think all of the mindset stuff, all of the productivity stuff, all of the technical and tactical stuff only is important after you've gotten your vision, clear on your vision, and then you got a strategy that you can change if you need to, but at least you've got clarity on vision. Your strategy can be flexible and change and adapt, and it should and it will, but you can't start going into the tactical. You can't start going into the, being productive and efficient and all that stuff if you don't have clarity around where you want to go, because that's what's going to pull you through all of the crap. That's going to give you, motivation is fleeting, inspiration is permanent. And I believe you can only be inspired if you're driven by vision. And if you're not driven by vision, then you have fleeting points of motivation where maybe you get a few things done and maybe you're productive today, but you never really go closer to your goals because you don't even know what your goals are. You don't even know where your destination is. So I think that before you do anything else, it's important to sit down and map out, what is the best, what is my purpose? What is the best me that I can be? What does my ideal life look like? Who are the people I want to be around? What are the experiences I want to have? How do I want my relationships to be? What is my spirit? What's important to me spiritually, or whatever the case may be? What about my health? Looking at all of these different aspects of the perfect ideal lifestyle and getting very clear on that is going to drive everything else. So I hope that helps. I hope that answers that question.
No, it does. And the thing is that not only did you answer it, but you gave people a clear path. I love the fact that you named everything out. I love that. So I hope people will rewind it like 2 or 3 minutes back and write that down, because I think it's critical what you just said. Here's the thing. You and I are, we're the same, and that's I think that's why we hang out. That's why we enjoy each other's company. We're great friends. I'm actually very, very, I think the best thing that ever came out from that mastermind that we first started was our friendship. Yeah. Because, the other couple people that broke out from the group, it fell apart because of whatever reason. But you and I kept in communication, and when there was some really tough times in the last year for me, you were the first person I called, and you remember having that conversation. I was like, it was funny because we had a meeting set up, and then it was on the wrong schedule, and then we had something scheduled that day, and everything just fell apart, and we had our scheduled time to talk just to catch up with each other. And you were like the first person that I chatted with. And I just remember that conversation, and I remember, the emotion that you had. I remember, you felt what I felt, and you were very motivating. And since then, you have been very critical for me to move forward. And I just want to share that with everyone, because if it wasn't for you, I would have been stuck in some places.
Oh man, thank you.
And so I deeply, deeply appreciate that. And it was a big moment, especially when you allowed me to share my story on stage at No Excuses last year. And then from that moment, just how things have just really propelled forward and just really moved for me is a big thing. So I can't thank you enough for giving me your time today and your friendship that we've had since we've met. It's been really, really big for me, and I'm excited because you're going to speak at our event this year in November again. Mm-hmm. And I can't wait for that because I think here's the thing. I'm going to give you a compliment here, if I haven't in the last couple of minutes. What I like about you is that you're the same. And if the person you see right now in this video interview, the person you meet in person is the same person, and he's a very caring individual. And if you get into his circle, you're in for an amazing ride. Every time we've gotten together, every time we either do a conference or we go and travel, we always do something adventurous. We went, we did in Mexico a underground cavern.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, remember that?
Yeah.
And then we went to Vegas. We did the off-roading.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So Tim, I just appreciate your friendship, man, and your mentorship, and just allowing me to share you with everyone that's watching this video to kind of know who you are, and where can people find you if they want to learn more about you.
So it's interesting. First of all, what's been amazing to me was just watching you grow. And the reason I could relate to where you were when we talked that time is because I've been there. And I think, and really quick, I just want to touch on this because I think it's really important. I know we're wrapping up now, but I think there comes a point in every single entrepreneur's career where they hit a serious wall, where there's something unexpected happens and it feels like your whole world has just collapsed. I think that happens to everyone. And there's another saying that I'm going to totally botch, but I think the true character of a man is revealed in the times of greatest adversity. And I think that your character came out and you said, you know what? You looked at defeat in the face and you said, you know what? I'm not going to lie. It's not about how hard you fall. It's about how quickly you get up. And you got up and you shot up, man. And so that's inspiring for me, because a lot lesser men have taken a lot smaller falls and not gotten up. A lot greater men have taken a lot lesser falls and not gotten up, but you did. And so kudos to you, brother. And with the friendship stuff, likewise, I feel exactly the same. Going back to how people can find me or get a hold of me, we were also talking about how you were a little delayed in the launch of your personal website. Likewise with me, I'm a little bit delayed in that as well. And we've got our big event coming up. My website's timerway.com. That's where you can get a hold of me. That's my personal website. I also have a website that is more geared towards home business owners, network marketers. That's my other company. That's the one that's putting on No Excuses, and that's called Elite Marketing Pro. So that's live and operational. And soon, hopefully, my timerway.com site will be up as well. Let's race. Let's have a contest and see who can launch first.
Okay, but mine's in the works, man. Mine's in the works, and so it's being done by. It's actually being done by a group that I met actually at No Excuses last year.
Ah, very cool.
So that is. So you
Nice.
you an influence and you have a lot more than you than you actually think. But listen, it's been fun. I wish we could go on forever, and we would actually.
Yeah.
I'm gonna share some of the video of us going off-roading. I want to put that down below in this as well, and on this page. I'll make sure Tim's information's there. I look forward to sharing the stage with you again at Monetization Mastery in November this year. It's in Orlando. So it's
Right in my backyard.
Down the street from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, Tim, appreciate it, man. I really do. And I look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks in person.
Likewise, brother. Take care, man.
Thanks, man. And for you guys out there, listen, another great conversation, another great interview with a friend, with a mentor of mine. Fear is lying. Stay strong, stay focused, get it done.